Tai Felton should be in the Heisman conversation.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and also publisher at InsideBlackandGold.net. Make sure you guys go to Inside Black and Gold for all your Terps news. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's pretty awesome. So just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Tai Felton should be in the Heisman conversation for Maryland football. I'm looking at the stats. I'm looking at what other people are doing. I'm looking at how Tai Felton has impacted the Maryland football program and what he's done for the team this year. And after another huge performance against Villanova, where Maryland ended up winning the game. And I don't know, without Tai Felton on our team, I don't know if we beat Virginia. I don't know if we put up as good of a game against Michigan State. I don't know what we look like right now. And the thing about the Heisman, and that's a huge word for college football. Whenever you talk about the Heisman, you're not just messing around. This isn't like Tai Felton deserves to be all Big Ten, or Tai Felton deserves to be on Receiver of the Year awardless or whatever. This isn't a small thing when you're talking about the Heisman. But what he has done this year for Maryland football, the impact that he has had on the field in terms of the statistics that he's racking up, in terms of the touchdowns he's gaining, in terms of how he compares to the rest of the country, he deserves to be in the Heisman conversation right now. Will I sit here and tell you he deserves to win it? No, I never said that. And he'll have to continue to get better. He'll have to continue to put up humongous performances to even be in the odds. But I really do believe that he deserves to be in the conversation right now because of what he has done as a receiver, what he has done on a consistent basis. Nobody really in the country has done it better than him so far. No, specifically in the Big Ten, but nobody in the country has really done better than him. There's guys that have similar stats. There's a whole lot of guys that are below him, and I know there's a lot of really good players. And when you think of the Heisman, it's usually award. Some really big things, and he looks like he could be a Heisman candidate. Jackson Dart right now is leading the country in yards. And there's some other really good players. And then when I'm actually looking at a little side note, Billy Edwards right now is 13th in yards in the entire country. But there's some other guys that you would say probably are really solidify themselves in the Heisman conversation, probably more than Tai Felton just because of the preseason hype and everything going on. But when you look at what he has done through his first couple of games, what Tai Felton has brought to the team, it's pretty crazy. When I look at all the receivers in the country right now, he's third in yards, barely behind this kid, Nick Marsh, at San Jose State, who's absolutely going crazy right now. But he's at San Jose State. A player at San Jose State can't really win the Heisman, and I feel like that's a reasonable expectation. And then Tre Harris at Ole Miss is barely in front of them in terms of yards, but Tai Felton has one more touchdown. Tai Felton has a couple more receptions. And I'd also argue that Tre Harris hasn't played anybody. Ole Miss schedule so far has been pretty awful. While Maryland, I'm not saying our schedule's been a gauntlet, but we've played two Power 5 teams compared to Ole Miss, who's only played Wake Forest and absolutely blitzed them. But he's been racking up numbers against Georgia Southern, against Middle Tennessee, against Furman. And maybe it's not an argument that Tai Felton only deserves to be in the Heisman candidate, and he deserves to be in that ballot. But I think he also, for sure solidified himself as a guy that should be. I don't know when they come up with the Biletnikoff and like the guys that made it on that list, but so far there's no way that you cannot put his name on that ballot. When you look at the numbers, when you look at what he's doing per game, and it's not like, oh, Tai Felton just one game had like 300 yards and then the rest he's just kind of having normal performances. It's a consistent type of thing right now. It's a consistent basis where he continues to put up good numbers. He's every single game has had above 100 yards. Every single game he has over 7 catches. Villanova, 14 receptions, 157 yards, and a touchdown. UVA, 9 receptions, 117 yards, and a touchdown. Michigan State, 11 receptions, 152 yards, and a touchdown. UConn, 7 receptions, 178 yards, 2 touchdowns. So it's not like, oh, he put up 250 in 1 week and the rest of the weeks he's put up 50 yards. No, he's going up over 100 every single game. He's getting a touchdown every single game. And I think it's fair to say he deserves to be at least in the conversation for the Heisman right now. And I know that the likelihood of him winning it, I'm not going to lie to you guys, is like almost zero. But what he has done for Maryland football so far this year, why wouldn't he be in the Heisman candidate? Why wouldn't he be? Right now, he's playing like the best receiver in the country. He's absolutely jumped up boards. Like, you can't tell me this kid's not a first or second round receiver. If he's not, I just don't understand. If he continues to play at this level and he's not like a first or second round receiver, I don't get it, because he has everything and he's doing it on a consistent basis. He blows everyone in the Big Ten out. It's not even close right now. He deserves to be first team All Big Ten, and it's really not close at all. He deserves to be the number one guy in the Big Ten. And there's some really good receivers in the Big Ten, of course, but he deserves right now, I think, to be number one on that list overall, just because of what he's done as a player. Right now, he blows out the entire Big Ten. He has almost he's 250 yards more than the next guy, was compared to his 604 yards so far. Giles Jackson at Washington has 342. Pat Bryant at Illinois is 309. Denzel Boston at Washington is 287. Jeremiah Smith is 281. So he blows everyone out in the Big Ten. So I think it's clear right now he's the best receiver in the Big Ten. But I think that best receiver in the Big Ten, one of the best receivers, I think the best right now in terms of the numbers and how he's playing on a consistent basis, I would say right now he's the best receiver in the entire country. And I think best receiver in the entire country deserves to have his name at least brought up in the conversation of the Heisman. And Coach Locksley made an excellent point when somebody asked him the question about, the Heisman and Tai Felton, and he said, it's really he's talked about, I don't remember his exact wording, but he basically said it's a team award, and he believes that the better your team plays, the more opportunity for guys like Tai Felton and other guys on your team who have played high-level ball have a chance to win these type of things. And I think that's absolutely true. Maryland football puts up a surprise season and is able to upset a team like Oregon or USC or something like that, and we're able to get to 9 or 10 wins. It makes us look a lot more appealing to name a guy like Tai Felton, not only for the Heisman, but maybe for the Biletnikoff. I think the Biletnikoff is very much in his eyes, and it seems a little bit like a political award. Still like the Biletnikoff, like there's plenty of good receivers in the country, guys that came in that had higher just people looked at them as first round picks, looked at them as guys who had higher ceilings. They just looked at them as better players coming into the year, like the kid at Arizona, McMillan. There's some other guys. The guy at Miami, Xavier Restrepo, is a really good player. So there's guys that came in, Emeka Mbuka at Ohio State, the kid at Missouri, Luther Burden. And so it always feels like it's a name that wins that award. If Tai Felton keeps putting up the numbers, I think he deserves to be in the conversation for the Heisman. And right now, if it ended today, I think he should win the Biletnikoff Award. I don't see why not. I don't see how he hasn't been the best receiver in college football so far. And he's really put himself onto the map right now. Coach Locksley kind of lied to us at Big Ten Media Day. I'll tell you about that and what I have noticed after this ad from 5 Hour Energy. Five-Hour Energy fixes tired fast, whether you have a long list to do for work or a list of DIY projects to tackle at home. Take a 5-hour energy shot so you can check everything off your list. If you are like me, you always have a large list of projects for the home. When you get your supplies for the project, do not forget the most essential supply, which is a 5-hour energy shots. Grab a 5-hour energy shot to stay alert to watch all your favorite games, or if you stayed up late to see that intense overtime game, take a 5-hour energy shot in the morning so you can start your day. With zero sugar and a convenient portable size, it's a perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. The 5-Hour Energy website has flavors galore like watermelon, tropical burst, grape, berry, and more. And there's a flavor for everyone. Try them all. On this site, you even have the option to build your own 12-pack or 24-pack. You choose the flavor and it's delivered right to your door. So if you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5hourenergy.com, and get some 5-Hour Energy product today, and use promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders, so go to 5hourenergy.com today. The talk of the offseason was Maryland football is going to have to change their identity. We're going to have to be a very different team. I'll tell you, Coach Locksley absolutely, I don't want to say lied to us, but this team proved me wrong, proved Coach Locksley wrong, and proved a lot of people wrong, not in terms of how good we are. It's not about that. It's about what we are as a football program. We did not think that our identity was going to be throwing the football. I thought for sure. I knew we had Talia in the past. I knew we had led the Big Ten in attempts in the past. And I knew we have done some really good things throwing the football. But at the same time, I definitely wanted us to cut back on it going into this year. And even in the past, I wanted us to not throw as many balls. But Maryland has not changed their identity at all. It has not changed as a team, and I think it surprised Coach Locksley because we're still playing the same exact way we played with Talia. And that's kind of a scary thing a little bit because it's still early on the season. We're kind of banging through it. I guess we're already a third of the way through. We've played 4 games. What do we have? 12 games. So we're already a third of the way through. So we can start to talk about kind of what we are as a team. And Maryland's a team that's going to throw the football right now. We're not going to try and mess around and beat teams running the ball. It doesn't seem like our run game has been super effective. It seems like our strength is on the outside. It seems like our offensive line pass blocks better. But remember what Coach Locksley said coming into the season. He lied. He was like, yeah, this year is going to be more about running the football and playing good defense. We're going to rely on the run more. We're going to play better defense. Hasn't happened at all. And I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing, not saying it's necessarily a good thing, but I think it's interesting to see that I think this is who we are. I don't think that's our identity to try and change it up. I don't think we're going to be a running football team. I don't think we're going to be like that. We're not Michigan. I don't know if you guys saw what Michigan did against USC, but I was able to watch some of that game, and I was like, wow, Michigan's going to be Michigan. Whether Harbaugh is there or not, they're going to run the football. And I know they don't have great quarterback play, but they did the same thing last year. They're going to run the ball, and that's what they did against USC. I think they only passed for like under 40 yards in that game and still were able to win the game by 3 against a USC team that's a pretty good program. That's got a pretty good team. That was top 15 team at that point. Michigan's going to be Michigan. I think we're coming to a point where Coach Locksley, Maryland, Coach Gaddis, Maryland, the offensive staff, we're who we are as a team. We can come into the season and be like, yeah, we got a new starting quarterback. He hasn't proven himself very much as a passer in the Big Ten and in college football. We don't know exactly how he's going to handle throwing the football 35 times a game. We can say all that, but at the end of the day, that's not what we're going to be. We're going to be a team that throws the ball. We're going to be a team that uses receivers on the outside. We're going to be a team that has really good players at the receiver position, and we're going to be able to recruit that at a high level because we continue to put out that if you come here, you have a chance to do really good things as a receiver. There's a big track list that says that for Maryland football, whether it's Tre Moore, Stephon Diggs, more recently, guys like Raheem Jarrett, Jayshon Jones, the list goes on. Of course, Tai Felton and Caden Prather now. But we're not a team that's going to try and switch at, I don't think, no matter who our quarterback is. And maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's how we win ball games. I think that's how Coach Locksley knows how to win ball games. And props to him because Billy Edwards looks good doing it. But when I look at the stats, look at the attempts. Maryland leads the Big Ten in attempts. And it's not necessarily close. Billy Edwards leads the Big Ten in attempts with 136. The next is a guy in Miller Moss who, if you told me going into the season, Billy Edwards would have more attempts in the first 4 games than Miller Moss at USC, I would say, you're probably wrong. But you wouldn't be wrong at all. Billy Edwards has 136 attempts to Miller Moss's 117. Next is Aiden Childs at Michigan State, who has 116. So Billy Edwards has 20 more than him, which is a lot. That's like almost it's like a little bit less than a game. That's a whole game for some people. Well, no, not in terms of attempts. That wouldn't be a whole game, but that would be just below, probably like 10 or 15 below a game. So that's almost a whole game less of completions. And so you look at it and you say, it's kind of weird because it's not like Maryland has played a game script where we've been down every game and we felt like we need to throw the ball. Like, that's not what it's been. We've been up in a lot of games. We've had control a lot of games. So you would expect maybe for us not to be there, for us to maybe run the football more when we're up against UConn by 20 points or when we're up against Villanova in the second half. Like, I wouldn't expect us in the first 4 games to be there just the way it's. That's who we are. We're going to throw the football. And if you look at attempts, we're the highest in the Big Ten. If you look at completions, we're the highest in the Big Ten by far. Billy Edwards, 102 completions to Will Rogers' 84. So I'll talk about Talia and comparing him to Billy Edwards on another day. But to me, it's like I really am starting to see that Coach Locksley's a really good coach. And yeah, Talia was a good quarterback for us, and it's a little early. But this system is quarterback proof. Coach Locksley says it a lot, and I really do believe that. And it's shown that in the first 4 games. And he hasn't changed who we are. We're going to throw the football, and that's how our offense is going to operate. And I think that's fair. It's exciting for guys like me to watch. I don't know if it always equates to winning football games, but it's exciting to watch that brand of football. I'm not going to lie. So I don't think Maryland has changed anything. I think Coach Locksley kind of lied. And maybe this team surprised him, but I think Maryland football is going to be what Maryland football is going to be. Let's talk about the rest of the receivers. If they don't step up, we're going to be in trouble soon. I'll tell you about that after this ad from FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get the hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-plays, and so much more. So we're on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first dollar bet. We just ended the Monday Night Football games. You guys could have went on FanDuel and bet on those, but as well as you can go on FanDuel and bet on Thursday Night Football. Cowboys and Giants had a pretty good game there. And then Saturday, college football, if you want to bet on the Maryland Terrapins, you can do that. We're 7-point underdogs to Indiana. So make sure you guys go over to FanDuel. That's FanDuel.com. So Tai Felton has been playing awesome, and he has been really good player for Maryland football. But I'm still kind of concerned about the rest of the receiving core when eventually Tai Felton regresses, because I think that's definitely something that is going to happen eventually. I think we look at Caden Prather as our next best receiver, and I think that's totally right. I think he's the next best guy on our team. I don't think that's really an argument. You kind of always thought of it as a 1A, 1B going into the year, but now it's clear Tai Felton's the 1, Caden's a 2, but Caden's a really good 2 in the Big Ten. And I'm not as much concerned about Caden Prather, but I'm concerned about when teams game plan around Tai Felton and Caden Prather might get doubled some as well, and teams really try and take those 2 guys out of the game. Will the Terps be good enough to still win the game during the football? Can the Terps still throw the ball? Because I'm telling you, we're not just getting a free pass with Tai Felton forever where it's like every single game he gets 100 yards. And I want to believe that's going to happen, but that's just not realistic. That's just not what happens in these things. And he's going to have a huge season. He's already almost guaranteed, if he stays healthy, knock on wood, 1,000-yard season. Like, that's already something that's pretty much guaranteed to happen. But I want it to be clear that I think that maybe even this week against Indiana is a possibility that they double him, they don't let him get the ball, and they say, look, Maryland, I don't know if the other guys can beat you. And I'm not sure that we can. I know Caden Prather can, but outside of Prather, if we double Tai, I don't know how I feel about the rest of the receiver core. I know we got some talent. I know we got some guys. But it's so important that we don't just say, yeah, Tai Felton's playing really well, so the Maryland receiver core is good. Or Caden Prather and Tai are playing really good, that's why it's good. Like, no. Teams are going to start game planning. We're going to go get to better secondaries, better cornerbacks. Teams are going to try and take away Tai Felton. They're going to say, you're not going for 100 yards against us. You're not going for 2 touchdowns against us. And can guys like Octavian Smith, who's been, I don't want to say he hasn't been good this year, but he also hasn't been great this year. He's put up a catch in every single game, but it's like he's had a kind of a small impact. Villanova had 1 reception. UVA had one of the better games he's had of the season, 4 receptions for 23 yards. Michigan State, he had a reception. UConn, 2 for 25. And it's just like Tai has been open so much that Billy Edwards is going to throw him the football. Same with Caden Prather next in line. And Octavian Smith and other guys down the roster like Shalik Knotts as well. He only has 3 receptions for 13 yards. So our wide receiver production is really high right now because of Tai. And I said it, he deserves to be in the Heisman. He deserves to be in the Heisman conversation. But what if teams take him away? And it's going to really open up the world for guys like Octavian, like Shalik Knotts. In our tight end room too. I think our tight end room played pretty well in the last game, and I like those guys. But still, it's a lot of kind of unknown commodities, and I see it coming already. On third downs, they double him, or I keep thinking about this Bill Belichick quote about how he sometimes would play defense, which I think is genius. He said we put our number 1 corner on the number 2 receiver. So imagine this. Imagine we play a team like, let's just say Indiana, who we play this week. Imagine they put their number 1 corner on Caden Prather, and then they double Tai Felton with their number 2 and with the safety over the top, or find ways to double him. And then it's like, oh, shoot, like it's hard to get Caden Prather the ball. He's got their best corner. Tai Felton's getting doubled. You can't really get him the ball. Other guys have to step up. And I'm not saying that's what teams are going to do, but I promise you, teams aren't just going to let Tai Felton beat them. They're not just going to single cover him. They're not just going to say, here, Billy Edwards, we're going to continue to let you do that without making any adjustments. They're going to make you prove at the very least that you can throw to some other guys. And they might leave those guys on islands, and that's where Octavian Smith and Shalik Knotts, Dylan Wade, Preston Howard can feast. But it's also where we could go starving, and guys aren't getting open. Guys can't create separation. Guys aren't catching the football. Billy Edwards can't find these guys. Billy Edwards doesn't have the same connection. And so I think it's a problem I'm looking at the future, because we keep looking at these performances by Tai, and he had another one against Villanova. But we got to say, eventually he'll regress at least a little bit. I think that's fair to say, and it could come this week. We're going to need other guys to step up if that ends up happening. That's all we have for today. Thank you for listening to Locked On Terps. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball, so thank you for listening to Locked On Terps.